morning. John again. Somebody asked me about the the BB gun back here in the behind me. That was my. Well, there's two of them back there. There's my boyhood BB gun. It doesn't work anymore, and then my dad's boyhood BB gun back there, and it doesn't work anymore either. So yeah, I've got them back there on that mantle. That mantle is a hand hewn beam from a old house that was being burned out in a fire pit. I went to look at a job, and this hand hewn beam was burning, and I said, "Can I save that?" And he said, "Sure." So I took a saw and cut it off, and the other part was all burned. But I saved that. But he had no idea. It's hand hewn with an as and a broadaxe. The time it takes to do that, I couldn't handle letting it burn up. So I brought what I saved back and made like a little mantle shelf out of it. Anyhow, I thought I'd just do a little potpourri of of things today here. I this morning on the treadmill, I was reminding me of my dad. Always used to tell stories. He'd tell stories, all kinds of stuff. I remember stories about church when he was treasurer of the church, and when they got the loan for the building of the church in the 70s, and all kinds of stories. But yeah, I guess that's where I get it from. And the hospice nurse at his funeral told me, make sure you keep telling stories like your dad. So so I do my best. But I'm going to read a couple quotes here. Well, first I guess I'll tell this story. And many of you may have heard this story. I've heard this story probably a dozen times throughout the years by different pastors, but it's a good one, and I'll probably mess it up. But anyhow, it's an admiral, and he's on a battleship, and they're going at sea, and it's dark, and all of a sudden he sees what looks to be another ship. He sees lights in the distance, and he get on the radio and said, change heading 10 degrees. I forget what direction. And then all of a sudden on the verse, or on the radio, they get a radio back and it says, no, you change heading 10 degrees. And the admiral's getting all upset and says, no, this is the so-and-so battleship. You change headings 10 degrees. And then the radio comes back and says, this is a lighthouse. You change heading 10 degrees. And I'm reminded of how much in our pride and hubris throughout life, different stages, we can. And I was just thinking of all I'm in my 60s now, approaching 70s, and I think of each 10 years of what I wished I would have done differently because of pride or hubris. And I'm hoping I don't have that same thought of my 60s, and then hopefully 70s and maybe 80s, or in 90. In my dad's case, 90s. He was laying on his deathbed in his mid 90s. But I'm just going to read a couple quotes here. Kind of blend into the story, but maybe not. I don't know. It's by Blaise Pascal. There's two quotes. Here's the first one. Man's sensitivity to the little things and his insensitivity to the greatest things are the signs of a strange disorder. Let me read that again. Man's sensitivity to the little things in life and his insensitivity to the greatest things in life are signs of a strange disorder. Here's the second one. Man is equally incapable of seeing the nothingness from which he emerges and the infinity in which he is engulfed. I'll read that one again. Man is equally incapable of seeing the nothingness from which he emerges and the infinity in which he is engulfed. Alrighty. Hope to see you out on the river, and I promise I'll tell you a story. Maybe that's why so many people see me and they paddle the other way. All right, you have a good one. God bless.